Hello and welcome to the Beyond Enough podcast, where I am so privileged to be joined by another guest today, who we're going to get to in just a second. By now you know that we are here to talk about the real stories and the real journey behind business and healing and all of these incredible things that shape us and our lives as we choose more for ourselves and choose more for our careers and go beyond what society has deemed fit for us, choosing more for ourselves. And I'm joined today by the beautiful Teresa. And now, is Teresa? And you said you don't mind, but you can give us a little, a little insight into who you are and what you do, and then we'll dive into the stories behind how you got there.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the invite. And by the way, you can pronounce my name Teresa. I really don't mind, but my name is Teresa because I'm Italian originally, from the south of Italy. Although I've been living in London for over 10 years, I think it's almost 12. Almost 12 years now. But I'm originally from Salerno, which is a small town in the south of Italy. If you know, Amalfi Coast is just really like next to Amalfi Coast. Really sunny.
I know, we need that right now, right? Because it's so cold here.
Some sunshine and warmth. And so coming from a small town, I've always wanted more. So I was born and raised in Salerno, and I had a little bit of troubled childhood, and I always felt a little bit different. You know what I mean. In terms of depth of my soul, I was feeling like a little bit not fitting in until I was a teenager, and I couldn't understand why. I thought it might have been because of the father. My father left when I was 6, and I grew up with my mother and my brother in a very modest household, not much opportunities, not much money, and everything was a struggle at the beginning. But then the more you grow, the more you understand that it's not only where you come from, because this could be also actually a privilege, because it makes you see things from a different perspective, but it's also what you do with your life. And feeling different, I really wanted to understand the human how the human mind worked, and what really moves people. That's why I wanted to go into psychology. I really wanted to study psychology when I was around 18, 19, but I couldn't afford it. In my town there was not psychology faculty, and my mom wouldn't she wasn't able to pay for my studies, so I had to pick something that was more affordable. So I studied languages and tourism, always because I love communication. I'm an empath and an extrovert mainly, so I really take energy from this type of conversations with like-minded people. And I wanted the opportunity to really get in touch with as many people as possible. So when I finished my degree, I started to look for a job. Opportunities in the south of Italy were not many, and so I started to travel, because with my languages it starts to travel. So I had different experiences abroad. I lived in Germany, I lived in Portugal, been traveling around in Brazil. I can also speak Portuguese a little bit. And then I moved to London, and it is, when you come to UK, it's a country full of possibilities. At least for me, I used to see it as I can be whoever I want to. And it was so easy to find opportunities, because the opportunities come to you if you open to it. And so that's when I decided to settle a little bit, and then when COVID hit and I had like some free time to focus on what I really wanted to expand on, I started to study like coaching and really get into these healing techniques, healing methodologies, and became a coach, ICF qualified also according to the Click Academy method, and then started to study all of these energy healing techniques that we use, like EFT, chakra balance, NLP, and looking at the human experience as a holistic experience, mind body connected, and trying to understand how your mind can impact on your body and vice versa. So yeah, and here I am, still studying, still helping people, clients, trying to make the world a better place.
Yes, I love that, and I love that for you, coming to London held that little ticket for you of like, oh my gosh, this is such an exciting opportunity. And I think you're so right. There is, it's hard to put blanket statements on things because everyone comes from such a different place in life, as in locality, like location, but also, like you say, having an upbringing that maybe wasn't financially abundant, but you developed that ability to look beyond and say, actually there's a possibility here. And I think that's really understated, because no matter where you come from in life, if you can't see opportunity, you'll never be able to take it. Like, you have to get to that point, I think, in your own mind of being open to possibilities and open to walking that less travelled route. And I think I love that you said that in the end, even though you didn't get to study what you wanted, it actually opened the doors for you to be able to do that.
Later, yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
I think it's how you say, be open and be willing to get to know what you don't know, because I love the sentence, you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
It's so true. Like, there is so much to learn all the time, but some people are really stuck into their way of thinking because this is what they're comfortable with, and sometimes not even realizing that this way of thinking is exactly what's holding them back from achieving what they really want. And this is the job that we do, right? It's like trying to give people another perspective to say, look, I'm not trying to change you, or you're not doing this job to change your personality. It's just to see things from a different angle, just to understand that there is something else that you don't know, not because you are not smart enough, or you didn't maybe you didn't have the opportunities, but at the same time, if you're open to receive, like you were saying, we can guide you, we can show you there is something else. If you're curious, I think it's the first step is like, I want to, it's the decision, like I'm willing to be open, and then do the work. But there's always an opportunity if you dare to see it. Sometimes we miss them because we don't see them.
Yes, I always think as well, it's developing that kind of, like you say, that inner decision of being like, I'm okay being a beginner. Like, I'm okay not knowing everything, and I accept that I don't know everything, and therefore that opens the door to just have that, like you say, that curiosity, because I always think this when I think about my own journey into being a coach and everything, but I will still ask other people their opinions on things that I have expertise in, because even if I am, very highly qualified and have years of experience with clients, there are still things that I don't know, and different perspectives and different ways of doing things that could help someone in a slightly different way or in a more meaningful way. And I think having that ability to just not falling into that self-doubt, that kind of imposter syndrome, but always having that open mind of, there maybe is something I can learn from this person or from this situation or whatever that might be, but just having that ability to say, there's always more to learn, and finding the joy in that,
Yeah, this is so powerful.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like humility, being humble. Yeah. To say, yes, there's always something I don't know. When you're humble and you're more prone to search for new things. Yeah. I always say, I always learn from my clients.
Yeah.
They teach me something new, because everyone is different. Even if you are like mastering a technique, which is, being effective for several clients, you might just tweak a little bit for, the specific person, because we are all different.
Yes.
And if you come from that, place of, I know I can do things differently, and, what I can learn, how I can support you, you lead. I'm just here as, a way to guide you, and, to just give you that, like help you build momentum.
Yes.
That, it's a different way of seeing things
Yes.
and making progress.
Yeah, I do think there's that kind of old maybe view of a life coach being someone who's going to solve all your problems and tell you what to do with your life, whereas really that's the opposite of what true coaching is, in terms of, you know, the modality itself is very much based around helping people discover their own answers, which I think puts people off sometimes, right? I think they think, well, I want told what to do. I want someone to tell me what to do, because we're used to, in the society, being told what to do. Like, we're so used to it, you know, in terms of, you know, your parents and then school, and even from, like, you know, the marketing and the everything that we just get thrown at us all the time. We're always told, like, this is the solution. This is the solution. Whereas coaching turns that on its head and says, well, actually, let's have a look at what's the right solution for you, and let's figure that out together. And that is a completely different thing to, you know, mentoring or whatever else, where you're telling people this is the right choice for you, or this is the way to do things. It's a very introspective journey.
Absolutely. And I know, because I also do mentoring at, you know, my full-time job, and it's completely different. Coaching, like you say, is not like the client leads, and then you obviously guide them through powerful questions or exercises or these techniques that we use, that we have learned.
Yeah, of course.
So obviously, you know, I would know how to set it up during a coaching session. But sometimes when clients ask me, what shall I do? I have this, you know, problem or issue, or this big question mark in front of me. I have to make a decision. I cannot tell you, because, like, imagine we, you know, if we took all the same choices, we would be like cloning people. You know, we all be the same. This is not the beauty of the world, is that we are all different.
Agreed.
And really, what I say, it's like, it's all about alignment. Like, making it right, the right decision for you means you know your values, you know how to align with these values, and you know if you make a decision that it's against your core values, you're not going to feel good about yourself or feel happy, because it's impossible. So the only thing that we can support them with is, like, trying to have clarity on these values and how, you know, to align themselves with their inner being. But the final decision, it's on them, because they know. And the authenticity, it's really key to living a happy life, fulfilled life. And sometimes people don't, they can't be full authentic, because, like you were saying, there's these, you know, societal expectations, or family and friends and all these people telling us what you should do. But, you know, they don't stop and, you know, just ask, what do I want? What do I truly want? What makes me up? What brings me joy? This question, you have no idea how many times.
Oh my gosh, I know.
My clients say, oh, this is so difficult. Like, I just asked you, what brings you joy? What could you do, you know, this week to bring, like, some joy into your life? And they struggle.
Yes. I had a very similar conversation with a client of mine in the past week, and we were relating this to her business and her marketing and things, but we were discussing these things, and I have been talking a lot about lately how, like, the word content is just giving me the ick at the minute. And I was trying to explain to her, content becomes so much easier when you can bring yourself to this platform, or whatever platform it is. And to do that, you need to know yourself, but you need to know yourself now. Post children, she as an individual had left her career, she's starting her business full time, and I was like, you need to figure out who you are in this version, in this time, in this season, what you like, what you don't like, what, like you say, what brings you joy, but also what doesn't, right? Like, we find out, I feel like we can find out so much about ourselves in the things that we don't like. And like you say, sometimes we have to admit that to ourselves. Sometimes it is that whole piece of, let's explore that. Let's explore why you don't like these things, or why you're not acknowledging anything that you don't like. And it's usually repressed fear, or wounds, or, gosh, numerous other things that could possibly be. But I think certainly as women, especially, we don't want to come off as, what's the word I'm looking for? Tight or bossy or high maintenance or anything like that. We want to just stay under the radar, and actually people pleasing is a huge problem, right? Because we just up with stuff that we really don't like, but that grates on your soul, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So
yeah, But it's what you say, like it's fear. Like, subconsciously we have some fear of, either maybe being alone or not meeting the expectations. And this is why we are unable to listen to our true calling. And what you mentioned about social media is so true. The strategy this year, I have a completely different strategy. This is me. If you match what I am, and if you like what I am, then it means that you can be part of my audience. If you don't like my content, it means that maybe my content is not for you. And it's not about having a lot of followers or having a lot of clients. It's like, who is my ideal client? Who am I here to serve? Because we always start from that feeling of being of service.
Of course,
we do it because we love it. We love seeing people, taking back control of their life, or standing up for themselves, and speaking up.
Yes,
and especially women, like you say, we are so much pressure. Let's say that. Like, why you're not successful at work, or why your house is not clean and tidy, and when are you getting married, or when are you having kids? And they want everything from us, and biological clock is ticking, and we feel this pressure. And also in terms of our hormonal situation is we on a monthly basis, we have different ups and downs, and sometimes I feel that a lot of women force themselves to do too much, when in fact, if they listened to their bodies, they would know this week maybe I should just take some time to just relax and rest, and do something to be by myself, to give my body the chance to recharge. And this is also something really important, I think, for women. Get in touch with that part of ourselves, not being in this, too much of masculine energy, too much of feminine energy, having a balance between the two, is so important. And this is something that we don't have enough of this type of work in this modern society at the moment.
I agree. I think you're so right. And I think, like, we've seen, and it's the same with any kind of movement, right? Like, there is a massive push in a lot of respects kind of on this like feminine energy, and how to just doing everything in your feminine. But actually, you're so right. Like, you've hit the nail on your head, you've hit the nail on the head when you say balance. And now, balance does not look the same for you as it does for me. Everyone is so different in that respect, and we all have the need to have all of these energies in varying respects at varying seasons in our life at various times of the month. And actually, seeking your own version of balance is what's important, and not looking at anyone else and saying, well, this coach says I should be 100% in my feminine energy because otherwise I'm repelling clients. And I'm sorry, but that's bullshit. Like, that is absolute utter rubbish. And I'm telling you right now, that woman has a team of 10 people doing all her marketing, doing all her systems, and doing all these things so that she doesn't have to do that. And that's not the reality for a lot of coaches. That's not a reality for a lot of small business owners. You're doing it all yourself, and there has to be an element of leaning in on certain times where stuff has to get done, and actually finding your own balance around making sure, yes, you're looking after yourself amongst that is important, but that's going to look different for you at various different times of your business.
Exactly. And that's why I think it's so important to tune into your own body. Just make sure that you plan during the phase that you need to plan, and then you take action during another phase. And this, how it looks like, it's different. Like you say, it's different for me, and compared to how it is for you or for anyone else. As long as we are in tune with that part and we don't neglect it, and we find this yin and yang, like being both energies,
our own version,
without neglecting any part of ourselves.
Agreed. I just so agree. I love that. I love that you brought that up, because I feel very strongly about that.
I can.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And so if we were to take it back, I guess, to when you first started your coaching journey and everything, Do you feel like you were searching yourself kind of for some answers around life and, you know, your place in it? I know you mentioned that in your early years you felt a little bit like different and a bit kind of like, oh, I don't fit in, you know, and I guess my question is, you know, do you think you were searching for that, like that place that,
Yeah. I've tried different times in different ways. That was always this void I wanted to feel. I wanted to understand, why is this only happening to me? Like, am I the only one? I went through a really, really dark time. Not gonna lie, it was tough. I had to go through therapy. I've tried traditional therapy. I've tried CBT. But then when I tried coaching and all this, I remember during an exercise of NLP reimprinting technique, and, you know, you go back in time, these memories came up that I completely, you know, forgot about them. I wasn't thinking about, you know, these memories. So when they came up, and then I realized why I was who I was, or, you know, why I had the beliefs that I have, then everything started to make sense. That's when I really understood the power of coaching and the power of these techniques. And, you know, there are some things that no matter, I knew the exercise, but I asked another coach to do it for me. It's different. You can't do everything by yourself. We need someone to guide us in, you know, with specific exercises or reflections. Otherwise, you know, we are too much into our head and we can't see things with clarity. And that's when, you know, I really started to understand the power of self-awareness. You touched upon this earlier, and for me, I always tell my clients everything starts from self-awareness. The more you know yourself, the more you can achieve your goals and manifest your desires, because you know your values, you know what makes you happy. And when you mentioned about, you know, clarity, and for me clarity is also, you know, second step, comes also from knowing what you don't want. Sometimes exactly. At the beginning I was very much focused on relationships and helping women, you know, trying to find their true love, their self-love. But then, you know, when they were asking me, why did I go through this relationship, it was so painful. Well, you know, it gave you some clarity, because now you know what you don't want. Don't underestimate it. It's powerful. Now you can build a list of, okay, what do I want? And this is true also, you know, in business, in terms of health, in terms of, you know, anything else, any area of your life. It's so true. So yeah, definitely self-awareness, clarity.
I love that, and it's so true. It doesn't matter what area of your life you reflect that to. Self-awareness does almost demand that we start to explore what we like, what we don't like, what sits well with us. And you mentioned earlier your values. Does this feel good and true to who I am? And once you start, like you say, to do the kind of the inner work, and you can do a certain amount. I do think you can do a certain amount by yourself. I think it's fantastic to have a coach or mentor do this with you, like you say, who's someone who can guide you through the more powerful exercises and techniques that come from a trained professional. And then, like you say, start helping you remove those layers of fear, so that you can try more things, so that you can be a bit more explorative, a bit more curious, to come back to that word that we used earlier. But I always think it's kind of like a cycle. It's not like a staged step by step. It is very much like you do a bit of self-awareness, and then everything becomes a little bit more loose, and you've got a bit more capacity, so that when you listen to a podcast, suddenly, instead of being completely blocked out to what you're hearing, your subconscious mind can finally hear what's being said in a very different way, and you learn something, you implement something, and then you're right back to, oh, okay, wait a minute, I need to develop a bit of awareness around this situation, how I feel about it. And it's like that ever-evolving, you know, situation. It's not a kind of one and done.
You
know?
It's not linear.
No.
Like, you know, the healing journey and the self-growth journey are not linear at all. There are times where you just take some steps back, and sometimes it feels like you're not progressing. You're not making anything to move forward. But then when you, like you say, you listen to a podcast or you reflect on something, there's a powerful questions being asked. then you suddenly something like it just moves inside you, and just okay, now I know. And that's why these conversations are so powerful. It's so difficult to find people who are on the same level, of the same frequency of understanding or deep understanding of life or spirituality. You can't have these conversations with anyone. That's important to surround yourself with people who you can talk to. You can open up, and they can give you some inputs to just do things differently.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. Again, another thing that I'm always banging on about is community, and I use this example when I was on the podcast the other day, but I was telling my guest how when I told my parents I was starting a podcast, they were like, what are you doing? Are you absolutely insane? And the reason I'm bringing it up again is because there are going to be people in your life who don't get it, who don't get your healing journey, who don't get that you're choosing something different and that you don't want to sit in a cafe and bitch about your other friends, who don't get that you want to go to the gym instead of going out drinking at the weekend. And I'm not saying these are perfect choices for everyone, I'm just giving examples here. No hate to anyone who doesn't like the gym or wine, right? But when you start changing things up and you start moving differently through your life, not everyone will get it, and it is so much easier if you seek out like-minded people.
Yeah, especially if you're a woman, it's right. Like they just put us, against each other sometimes. No, because they feel like women are competitive. Yes, it's true, but the more I am doing this work, the more I understand how important it is to have a community of women to support you, and you can it's an exchange. It's just the energy,
it's so different. It's so different. It's just complete. It's not even in the same realm. Like it is really powerful when you start to welcome in women into your life who are not competing with you, who are not judging you, who are not constantly dragging you down energetically as well as everything else. And you start to find that, I think, you can tell me your thoughts on this, but you do start to find that when you start to be able to be yourself and start to really, again, coming back to this word authenticity, but when you are brave enough to speak out, to speak your truth, to be yourself, even if you're not really sure who that is yet, right? But once you start to be brave enough to put yourself out there, you will draw in the right kind of people.
This is so true. Because it's like I said, it's a frequency. So you attract the right kind of women into your circle when you are in tune with yourself and your own being. So you are authentic and repulse almost, people who don't like your energy, and it's fine because you're building boundaries. This is something else that, some women, and us as a woman, I was the same. I had no boundaries at all. I had to learn first what boundaries were, and then I had to build some boundaries. And when you build boundaries, what you said is true. Like some people don't like it. They don't like the new version of you. They prefer you to be, why have you changed so much?
They want you to keep serving them and all the ways that you were bending over backwards to make them happy. No, they're not going to like it. They won't.
Exactly. And the second thing is they like you when you're not doing well, especially if they're not doing well, because, we are in the same boat, so we are best friends. But then if you start moving up a little bit and just showing, I am stepping into this new version of myself, more confident, more powerful, that they feel threatened for the same reason we said, because they're in competition. If they're not in tune with themselves, they don't see you like an inspiration, because I'm inspired by people like you or other coaches. Is really, for me, it really feeds my soul, all of this. But some people are threatened.
So true.
This is sorry, sister, but in this moment in time, you can't be part of my life. Doesn't mean that I am an awful person. It's just, I'm too busy trying to build the life that I want. I can't be worried about you. When you decide to tune into the same frequency, I'm here welcoming you again. We can be friends.
Totally. But like you say, it's boundaries, isn't it? And getting yourself to a point where you're okay with not being everyone's cup of tea. Just accepting that actually, if you are really passionate about changing your life, in whatever respect, right? Whatever phase or stage that you're at, if you want something more or you want something different, that's going to involve some changes in relationships, some changes in friendships. It's going to involve some different ways of doing things. And I guess working on that kind of resilience, right, around possibly the comments that will come, or like you say, that competition and people not treating you very nicely or anything like that. There has to be a kind of development of resilience around just, again, back to that self-awareness, knowing yourself well enough to say, well, actually, this is what's really important to me, this is what I really want, and therefore your opinion doesn't get to dull that. It doesn't get to take away the shine from something that's really meaningful and important to me because you don't like it. Like, your opinion doesn't have more weight for my life than my own does.
It's tough.
It is.
Because, it's people really close to you. I've lost close friends, or I thought they were close friends, when I realized that they're not supporting, the new version of myself. They couldn't be in my life anymore. The only way they can really shine and become the best version of themselves and build their own boundaries is if I do it, if I show them how to do it. So actually, if I keep them in my life and continue to please them, then I do a disservice to them. It's not positive, it's not good, it's bad energy for all of us.
100%. It's actually just perpetuating those toxic cycles, right? Which is why this exists in the first place, right? Like, these very toxic norms, these toxic norms around women or friendships or whatever that may be, relationships. There has to be a point where we break that cycle. And sometimes that does mean stepping away from relationships and saying that's not acceptable. It's just absolutely not acceptable. But like you say, that is the brave thing to do. It's hard. It is hard.
Yeah, especially when it's close friends or family or relatives.
Yeah.
It needs courage.
Yeah.
And people who love you, at the beginning they can maybe distance themselves, but then you always find a way back.
Yeah.
If it's true, like love is, unconditional.
Literally, love is unconditional. I will use an example of my mother again here. They think I'm wacky the best of times, but actually it's my mum's fault, because she is I think you probably would have called her a hippie back in the day, right? She's very holistic, and she is. But when I started this journey, she was a bit like, what are you doing? Like, this is crazy. But she did say to me, it must have been a couple of years now, she said, Amy, you're a completely different person now. You are a completely different person. And I remember at that moment thinking, wow, if my mum's acknowledging that is major, But it doesn't mean she doesn't love me anymore. In fact, I argue that our relationship is better for it. And she has taken a lot of steps to change things in her life now, as has my sister. But it took me walking that path first. And not to say that their changes have to be the same as my changes. Like you say, we all have to establish our own boundaries, our own wants and desires, and ask ourselves, what's truly important to me? And if these people really love me, that is unconditional, and they will support me through it.
Absolutely. And I'm happy that you mentioned that. Thank you for sharing. I had a similar thing with my mom, actually, because growing up, without my dad at home, me and my mom were very different. We were arguing all the time. Our relationship wasn't good at all. And, she was coming from her own, suffering, a painful childhood and life. So at one point, I had to just put my foot down and say, look, it's not going to work. And I remember a few days, we didn't talk. At one point, we had a very big argument over the phone, and she just put the phone down. It was like one of her, I would say, toxic behaviors that she was putting in place. Okay, fine. I'm not going to call you back like I used to do, and, take time, cool off, and then let me know. And she really took that as, turning point to understand, okay, Teresa is different now. And she changed, and she just adapted to the new version of myself. And like with your mom, our relationship is better than ever now. We found another balance, a new balance.
Yes.
We support the new version of each other. She tuned into my new version. She's following, my healing journey. She's supporting me. But this could not have happened if I was stuck in my old ways of thinking without any boundaries. So it only happened because I had the courage to just say, this is enough. I'm not going to work like it used to be. Not anymore.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing that. I think there will be so many women watching this who just so fully relate to, or maybe they're not there yet, like maybe they're still in that moment where they are facilitating that kind of toxic behaviour. Because it is hard. Like, I don't think there's either one of us here saying that any of this is easy, right? Like, it is really hard. But in order to have a much healthier relationship going forward in any respect, like this relates to partners or siblings, parents, friends, in order to have a relationship that actually lights you up and makes you feel good, you have to do that hard part of establishing boundaries, of saying, actually, that behaviour is not appropriate and I'm not going to accept it any longer. And you will in that, I think we've both demonstrated here, I've lost friends as well, you do sometimes lose relationships on that basis. I'm not telling anyone to just go and burn their life to the ground, but in order to, I think it takes such an emotional toll to just constantly have these instances of being treated like shit by other people. It grates on your soul. It's exhausting, isn't it?
No one is saying that it's easy. It's not easy. Like, rebuilding the relationship with my mother was probably one of the most difficult things that I have done in the past few years. And I talk a lot about mother wound because everything starts from, in childhood. We know that, limiting beliefs, everything is, and there is a lot of resistance from people, from clients, when we work on these, wounds, to say, but no, my mom or my dad, they justify their behavior, which is fine because, we love them. We love them no matter what. But if they put in place some toxic behaviors, we need to admit it, identify these behaviors, because this is the only way we can heal. If we don't identify them, we can't. And it's tough because there is a lot of fear to say, I'm going to lose my mom, she's not going to want to call me anymore if we don't speak for a week. Well, there is a possibility that, some relationships will not go back as they were before. And, I was lucky enough to have my mom, mature enough to really question her own behaviors, listening to me when I said, you did this and this affected me in this way, without resentment. I'm just telling you so that you are aware and we can move forward. So we had a very open conversation. She understood. She cried, she apologized, and I did not want any of that. I just wanted her to listen, to say, if you told me I love you a little bit more often, or maybe just, hug me a little bit more, maybe, I don't know, but maybe things would have been different. But we can do it now.
Yes.
This is the beauty of it. And with friends it's the same. Like if they leave and they don't come back, it means that that relationship served you in that moment in time of your life. Everything needs to be in like forever. We need to accept that. When I was younger, I was really struggling with closure, but this is it's part of your development and progression in life. You throw away the old to make space for the new. We need to be okay with that, and with people in our life it's the same. Unfortunately, everyone is gonna be part of your life forever.
I agree. I think you're so right, and we get stuck in that. So we spoke about this briefly when we spoke before about how people are really hesitant to explore anything to do with their family because they see it as an attack almost on their family. But a lot of this work is internal. Like, obviously we're talking about relationships, conversations we've had with our mums, but that's not always necessary. I think so much of the work that we do around healing is actually internal. It's for us, it's not really for them. And you can change so much about how you think and feel and also act in a relationship, which will naturally change the other person in your relationship. Like once you start to see things differently and also understand what you're bringing to the relationship that might be toxic, without putting any kind of shame or blame on that, or internalizing those negative feelings, you can start to show up in relationships in a different way, and actually that can be really beneficial And sometimes I would argue a lot of the time that's actually internal. It's not necessarily something that you have to discuss with the other person. You can, but a lot of the time that's actually just your own inner work.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. But sometimes, to establish the boundaries, sometimes you have to express, how like people make you feel or made you feel. It's not necessary, because obviously the work is, like you say, it's personal, and you're going to express it the way, you show up into the relationship anyway. But if you feel, and it's personal, not everyone needs it, but I really need it, that, expression of, okay, I need to unblock my throat chakra and just say it.
It's so liberating. Do it.
It was like, for me, I felt that it really served, the purpose. But not every, like, we are all different, like we said, mandatory, and it's not part of, the healing process. Not everyone needs to take the same steps.
Yeah.
Really, so
I think you're so right. It depends, again, on how you as an individual, I think, have shown up in your life and what is important for you to kind of break through in that respect. Because I do speak to a lot of, obviously I'm a visibility coach, right? So I speak to a lot of women about this, like standing up for themselves, speaking their truth in their own way, right? And so for a lot of those women, we do a lot of the time discuss speaking up in other areas of their life. And I had another incredible guest, Morgan, and she was telling us how she'd been suppressing a lot of her views in her family to do with politics and things, but actually that was starting to trickle into how she showed up in her business, right? And so all of these things are connected. And so for some women who are struggling with that, actually using your voice in other areas of your life will help unlock your voice on a bigger scale. But actually for other women who that's not a problem and have lots of spaces and places where they can show up and be themselves and be authentic and tell people exactly how they feel, perhaps that's not going to be quite so important to them moving forward. So again, it's so subjective, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And also it's about, for me, it was more about learning how to express it, because I had a lot of anger. I had to work on anger a lot. But not everyone has the same needs. So it's totally personal. I think when you start doing the healing work, then you realize, because you get more in tune with yourself, then you will know what you need to make sure that the healing happens. And the coach is there to guide you.
Yeah, absolutely.
To listen, to hold space.
I love that. Okay, before we wrap up, I'd love to ask you, what are those biggest, I guess, moments or takeaways or learnings or things that you've implemented with your own healing journey, but also, you've started your business and now growing your business and all sorts of things. What would you say to the women who's maybe a few steps behind you has been the biggest game changers, I guess, for you finding your voice and setting boundaries and, just getting to that stage of feeling really comfortable and moving towards exactly what it is that you want?
It's a great question. I think the first thing was, for me, understanding myself. At the beginning, I was also one of these people who, if you ask me, what do you like or what are your core values, I knew, like, more or less what I wanted and what I valued, but I had to really sit down and do the work. Values are a big thing for me. So I think first thing is to understand your non-negotiables.
Yes.
So what are the most important thing for you in your life, in any area? So non-negotiable at work, non-negotiable in your relationships, non-negotiable for health, for example. So the things that are the most important for you. And then plan actions. Always say progress over perfection. It's important to have some actions associated to, all of these non-negotiables. So how do you get from where you are to where you want to be without feeling that you're neglecting or, you're not matching your values. So feeling this coherence or consistency with your inner being. And this helped me to build boundaries, actually, because it's like a consequence a little bit. Once you know, these are the things that, for example, in relationships, for me, it's like cheating is non-negotiable. My partner cheating or my own cheat. Like, if I have the opportunity, I know, for example, that I'm not going to do it because it's based on my integrity.
Yes.
Some people are okay with that and they can move forward. But knowing myself, knowing that for me it's a big value, knowing that then afterwards I cannot forgive myself, I cannot move forward. I know that it's dangerous. I know
Yes.
that it's counterproductive. So before I put myself into that situation, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
It's that I know.
Yeah.
I have rehearsed it in my mind and I know that it's something that I don't want. For example, that's again, what you don't want.
Yes.
Not always what you want, what you don't want. So this is a strong boundary already that you're building. And then in terms of making sure that you progress, what really helped me, like it's having a routine, some rituals, like the morning routine, the evening routine, some like time for myself. I love spending time with myself, for myself now, which before I would just get bored and lost in, scrolling posts on Facebook. No, I don't have time because I wake up and then I meditate and then I do some stretching and then I can do like affirmations, gratitude journal, and then in the evening again, what do you do? And I understand that everyone is busy in life, sometimes you just have 5 minutes, but if you have only 5 minutes in the evening and 5 minutes in the morning to do something for yourself,
make it count.
Make it count. What can you do? Like visualization, for example. It's easier to do it in the evening. Perfect. Is this something that works for you? Amazing. Or just skincare routine because it makes me feel good. So anything, and write it down. Everything, write it down. I think when you take time to write things down and you see them on black and white, it's you're halfway through.
It's almost like that comfort. It just gives a certain confirmation, a certain seriousness. It's like a little, you've written it down, now it's a promise to yourself. I love that you said that though, because I think self-care has been glamorized by products, right? Like, the beauty industry. Self-care is actually just an integral part of self-respect, I think. It is respecting yourself enough to do the things that really anchor you and serve you, and doing them no matter how you feel. Like you say, having that ritual built in, so no matter how you're feeling, these things are happening almost on automatic, and they ground you like nothing else. They ground you so beautifully. Like you say, it doesn't have to be a certain thing that works for someone else. Find what works for you. Get a bit of fun with it, like have a bath with lavender in it, or do your skincare, or roll your yoga mat out and just do the relaxation pose, right? Just whatever works.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be someone else's.
Just one pose for 3 minutes.
Yeah. It's so powerful.
It's just about self-love. What you said, like it's how you raise your standards, your value. It's like a little bit when you buy, I don't want to say like pair of shoes, like expensive, like Christian Louboutin or Jimmy Choo, and obviously compared to the shoes that you pay £20, you look after them, right? In a different way. You clean them, you put in the box, so you pay attention to how you wear them. It's because they cost more. It's because you put more like value to these shoes. And why are you not doing it with yourself?
It's so true.
You have to do it.
It's so true. I often say this because I originated as a confidence coach, right? Essentially that's still what I do in many respects, right? But I remember just so many times at the very start of my coaching with my clients just saying, I totally understand that for you this might seem really difficult at the moment, but I want you to start taking better care of yourself first and foremost. Let's just start taking care of yourself. Eat something that has minerals and vitamins in it. Move your body a little bit. I'm not saying you have to hit the gym 5 times a week. Start moving your body. Start nourishing your body. Start treating your body with some respect. And like you said earlier about this whole mind and body connection, physically start to take care of yourself and give yourself that, like you say, that value. Because once you start to do that, subconsciously you're telling yourself, I'm a person who deserves to be valued. And that's when the magic starts to happen and you can really start to build upon that. But the very basics of self-care is looking after yourself in a way that shows yourself that you matter. And that is so integral when building confidence, when building actually any it's the basis for everything good that is going to come in your life after it. It really is. Once you start to elevate how you feel about yourself, you start boundaries, no problem. You can command so much in your life once you start to find that inner worth, that inner confidence, and it makes the rest of it so much easier.
Totally
doesn't
agree.
it?
And also, what works for you, what makes you feel valuable is different from me, than me. Like, I can enjoy my skincare routine with organic products. You can enjoy having going to the hairdresser and have blow dry because you feel good.
Yes.
So
I love that.
Find your way to self-love.
Find your way.
Self-care.
I love that. I also think it's so interesting because when we came on here, we were kind of having a joke about how it's on video and we're kind of in our comfy clothes and all these things, but it is interesting, I think, when you're on maybe the start of this journey of trying to find your worth and really trying to find your confidence, that a lot of the things that might help you are putting a bit of lippy on or dressing up a little bit, putting the heel on. Whereas actually, I think once you find it, you go back the way because you're like, well, I am who I am. People just accept that I'm in
authenticity.
Yes, exactly. And then you start to be able to get to that point, right, where you're like, yeah, I could turn up in my cozy sweater and, it's much less about those little things. But actually on the journey, those are the things that actually can kind of help, not because they change the way you look, but because they change the way you feel. And
so true. Yeah. Totally agree.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm obviously going to go and have another coffee. Thank you so much for joining me, Teresa. Is that right? Is that better?
Thank you so much.
No, you're so welcome.
Yeah, perfect.
There we go. I'm practically Italian now. Thank you so much for joining me and for being so open and vulnerable as well with everything that you've shared with us and all of the value that you've brought. And for everyone listening, I will link all of your information so that they can come and find you and get in touch with you and be a part of your world, because it's a beautiful world that you're in, and I look forward to seeing everything that comes next for you.
That we are in.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely. This conversation was really, really powerful, and let's connect again soon.
Oh, I'm sure you will. You're not getting rid of me now. Yay! Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.